So last week I'm at dinner with some friends, right? And this guy, let's call him, he's going off about his investment strategy. He's talking about his crypto portfolio, his dividend stocks, how he's got his emergency fund perfectly allocated across 3 different high-yield savings accounts. The whole table is nodding along like he's got it all figured out. Then the check comes. N pulls out his credit card. The same credit card he just told us has a $12,000 balance at 23% interest. That dinner, that was the moment I realized something. Financial confidence has absolutely nothing to do with financial competence. My name is Elon Musk, and I spend way too much time thinking about why smart people make terrible money decisions. If you're someone who feels like you should have your finances together by now, who reads all the right articles and listens to all the right podcasts but still feels like you're just performing the part of a financially responsible adult, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because today, we need to talk about the uncomfortable truth that nobody in the personal finance space wants to admit. Here's the thing, and I really need you to hear this: most of what we call financial confidence is just theater. It's a performance we've all agreed to put on because actually talking about money honestly makes everyone incredibly uncomfortable. Look, I see this everywhere. A 2023 study from the National Financial Educators Council found that 38% of Americans would rather discuss their dating history with their parents than show their bank statements to their friends. 38%. We have literally created an entire social system where appearing financially confident is more important than actually being financially secure. And the performance has very specific scripts, right? You know what I'm talking about. Oh yeah, I'm maxing out my 401k. I only invest in index funds, super boring, but that's the smart play. Yeah, I've got 6 months of expenses saved up. These are the lines, these are what financially confident people are supposed to say. But here's what most people don't realize. Saying these things and doing these things are completely different performances. Let me give you some math to show you what I mean. According to the Federal Reserve's 2023 survey of consumer finances, the median retirement account balance for Americans aged 35-44 is $45,000. Not the average, the median. Half of people in that age bracket have less than that. Now, if you're 40 years old with $45,000 saved for retirement, and you're putting away the often recommended 15% of a $75,000 salary, that's $11,250 per year. You know how much you're projected to have at 65, assuming a 7% average annual return. About $1.1 million. Sounds great, right? Here's the problem. That same calculation shows you'll need to withdraw about $44,000 per year using the 4% rule to make that money last 30 years. Add in Social Security, let's say $2,000 a month, which is roughly average, and you're looking at total retirement income of about $68,000 per year. But and this is where it gets really interesting, that's in future dollars. With 3% average inflation, that $68,000 in 25 years has the purchasing power of about $34,000 today. So when someone confidently tells you they're on track for retirement because they're contributing to their 401k, what they often mean is, I am performing the actions that I've been told indicate financial responsibility, but I have not actually done the math to see if those actions will produce the outcome I want. That's the performance. Now you might be thinking, okay, but if people are at least doing something, isn't that better than nothing? And look, yes, obviously, but here's the trap. The performance of financial confidence actually prevents real financial confidence from developing. When you spend your energy learning the language of financial security instead of actually building financial security, you end up with what psychologists call illusory superiority. You think you're doing better than you actually are because you sound like you know what you're talking about. There's this fascinating study from 2022 published in the Journal of Consumer Research. They surveyed 1,200 people about their financial literacy and their actual financial behaviors. They found that people who scored in the top 25% on financial literacy questions were more likely to have high-interest debt than people who scored in the middle 50%. Let me say that again. The people who knew the most about finance, who could define terms like compound interest and expense ratio, were more likely to be carrying credit card debt than people with average financial knowledge. Why? Because knowing the vocabulary of financial success makes you feel financially successful. You think, I understand how 401ks work, I know what an ETF is, I can explain the difference between traditional and IRAs, I must be doing fine. Meanwhile, you're paying $200 a month in credit card interest. Let me break down the most common ways people perform financial confidence without actually building it. Performance 1, the optimization obsession. This is the person who spends 6 hours researching which high-yield savings account offers 4.35% versus 4.3%, while completely ignoring the $8,000 they have sitting in a checking account earning nothing. They'll tell you all about their carefully selected mix of VTI and VXUS in their brokerage account, which great index investing is smart, but they're not actually putting enough money into that account for it to matter. They've got $3,000 invested, and they're treating it like they're managing the Yale endowment. I see this all the time. Someone will say, I'm really optimizing my tax loss harvesting strategy, and I'm like, you made $47,000 last year. Your effective tax rate is like 12%. You're spending mental energy on a strategy that might save you $30. That's performance. Performance 2, the emergency fund excuse. Here's a controversial one. The emergency fund has become the socially acceptable way to avoid investing. Now, before you come at me, yes, you need an emergency fund. If you have genuinely unpredictable income, or you're the sole provider for your family, or you work in an unstable industry, you absolutely need 6-12 months of expenses saved. But here's what I see constantly. Someone will have $40,000 sitting in a savings account earning 4% while they're not contributing to their retirement accounts. And when you ask why they're not investing, they say, well, I need to build my emergency fund first. You have $40,000 saved. That is an emergency fund. But what if I need more? Then it's not an emergency fund, it's a security blanket. And look, I get it, security blankets are psychologically valuable, but we need to call it what it is. You're not being financially responsible by keeping $40,000 in cash. You're being risk-averse, which is fine, but it's different. The math, $40,000 in a savings account at 4% grows to about $59,000 in 10 years. That same $40,000 in an index fund at 10% average annual return, about $104,000. You're giving up $45,000 to feel financially secure. Performance 3, the retirement account flexing. This one drives me crazy. Someone will say, yeah, I'm maxing out my 401k, which sounds super impressive, but when you dig deeper, they're contributing the minimum to get the employer match and calling that maxing out. The actual 401k contribution limit for 2024 was $23,000. The employer match isn't you maxing it out. That's your employer giving you free money, which you should absolutely take, but contributing $4,000 a year to get a $4,000 match is not the same as contributing $23,000. But saying I max out my 401k makes you sound like you're crushing it financially. It's the performance. Okay, so why do we do this? Why do smart people who genuinely want to be financially secure spend more time sounding financially secure than being financially secure? 3 reasons. Reason 1, actual financial security takes longer than we want it to. If you're 30 years old making $60,000 with $15,000 in student loans and $3,000 in credit card debt, and you want to know how long it takes to become financially secure, it's not 6 months, it's not a year, it's probably 7-10 years of consistent, unglamorous saving and investing. And that's if you do everything right. Nobody wants to hear that. Everyone wants the hack, the shortcut, the secret strategy that rich people don't want you to know. So instead of committing to 10 years of paying off debt and building wealth slowly, people learn the vocabulary, adopt the aesthetics, and perform confidence as a substitute for the long, boring work. Reason 2, financial vulnerability is legitimately scary. When you admit you don't have your finances together, you're admitting something that feels deeply personal. Money is tied to survival, to status, to your sense of being a capable adult. Saying, I actually have no idea if I'm on track for retirement, or I'm terrified I'll never be able to buy a house, requires a level of vulnerability most people can't access. So we perform instead. We use the right terms. We nod along when people talk about their investment strategies. We pretend we understand what's happening with our 401ks. It's a defense mechanism. Reason 3, the personal finance industry rewards performance over substance. Here's something that's going to make some people mad. The entire personal finance content industry is built on making you feel smart without requiring you to do anything hard. Think about it, every article is 5 simple steps to financial freedom, or the one change that will make you rich. Every video promises to reveal some insider knowledge that will transform your finances. But actual financial success requires sustained behavior change over years, which is not clickable content. So instead, we get content that teaches you how to talk about money, how to sound knowledgeable at dinner parties, how to perform financial confidence, because that's what gets clicks. I'm doing it right now. This video is titled Why Financial Confidence is Performative, which sounds provocative and interesting. But the real title should be, You Need to Do Boring Math and Make Uncomfortable Changes for a Decade. Nobody's clicking on that. So how do you actually move from performing financial confidence to building real financial competence? It requires a specific psychological shift that I want to walk you through, because this is where most people get stuck. The shift is this: you have to become more afraid of being broke at 70 than you are of feeling inadequate at 30. Let me explain what I mean. Right now, for most people, the immediate social consequences of financial inadequacy feel more urgent than the distant possibility of financial insecurity in retirement. Being the person at dinner who doesn't know what an IRA is feels worse right now than the abstract concept of not having enough money in 40 years. But here's the thing, and I really need you to sit with this: 40 years goes by fast. I know that sounds like something a dad would say, but talk to anyone in their 60s who didn't save enough. The time between 25 and 65 feels like 10 years when you're looking back on it. And the math is absolutely brutal if you start late. If you start investing $500 a month at age 25, at 10% average return, you'll have about $3.2 million at 65. Start at 35, $1.2 million. Start at 45, $380,000. That's the same amount of money per month. That's the same investment strategy. The only difference is when you start. And that $2 million difference between starting at 25 versus starting at 35 is the cost of spending a decade performing financial confidence instead of building it. So what does building real financial competence look like? Here's the uncomfortable truth: it's boring and it's math. Step 1, calculate your actual numbers. Not the numbers you think you have, not the numbers you tell people you have, your actual numbers. How much do you have in retirement accounts right now? Go look, log in, check the balance. How much are you contributing per month? Not per year, per month, because monthly numbers force you to see the reality. How much debt do you have and at what interest rate? Write it down, all of it. What's your actual monthly spending? Track it for 3 months, not what you think it is, what it actually is. This step takes maybe 2 hours. But most people won't do it because seeing the real numbers means you can't perform confidence anymore. Step 2, run the retirement projection. There are free calculators everywhere. Put in your current age, your current savings, your monthly contribution, and your expected retirement age. See what you're actually on track for. For most people, this number is terrifying. Good. Being scared is better than being broke at 70. Step 3, calculate your gap. If the retirement calculator says you'll have $800,000 and you need $1.5 million, your gap is $700,000. Now work backwards. How much do you need to save per month to close that gap? This is usually where people get mad at me, because the number is always higher than they want it to be. If you're 35 and you need to save an extra $700,000 by 65, that's about $580 a month at 10% return. Can you find $580 a month? Maybe yes, maybe no. But at least now you're dealing with reality instead of performance. Step 4, make actual decisions. This is the hard part. Real financial competence requires making choices you don't want to make. It means saying, I can't afford a $50,000 car right now. I need to buy a $20,000 car and invest the difference. It means I can't take that vacation this year because I need to pay off this credit card. It means I know everyone else is buying houses, but I'm going to rent for 3 more years while I build my down payment and make sure I can actually afford the mortgage. These decisions make you feel like you're falling behind. Everyone else looks like they have it together. Everyone else is performing confidence. But you're doing the math, and the math says you need to make different choices. That's what real financial competence looks like. It's unglamorous and it's lonely, and nobody's impressed when you tell them about it at parties. Here's the paradox that I want to leave you with. The people with the most real financial confidence are usually the ones who sound the least confident. They say things like, I don't know, I'm just trying to save as much as I can, or I'm probably not doing this right, but I'm putting away $800 a month and hoping it works out. Meanwhile, they've got $200,000 saved at age 40, 0 debt, and they're actually on track for a comfortable retirement. The people performing confidence are talking about optimization strategies and tax loss harvesting and alternative investments. The people who actually have their finances together are just doing the boring work, month after month, year after year. And nobody notices because it's not impressive, it's not clickable, it's not the kind of thing you brag about at dinner parties. But in 30 years, the person who spent those 30 years doing boring math and making unglamorous choices is going to retire comfortably. And the person who spent 30 years performing financial confidence is going to keep working. Look, I get it, financial insecurity is scary. Not knowing if you're doing the right thing is uncomfortable, and it's so much easier to learn the language, adopt the aesthetics, and perform confidence than it is to do the actual hard work. But you're not going to be able to retire on a well-curated Instagram aesthetic of financial responsibility. You're not going to pay your bills at 75 with knowledge of investment terminology. You need actual money in actual accounts, growing over actual years. And the only way to get there is to stop performing and start calculating. So here's what I want you to do today. Open your retirement account. Look at the balance. Look at your monthly contribution. Run a projection calculator. See where you're actually headed. If you're on track, great, keep going. If you're not on track, now you know. And knowing is the first step to actually fixing it. Stop performing financial confidence and start building financial competence. The future version of you, the one who gets to actually retire, is going to thank you. If this video helped you see your finances more clearly, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want more real talk about money without the performance. And drop a comment telling me which performance you're guilty of, because trust me, I've done all of them. I'll see you in the next one.